Something shifted last night, and even though your eyes did not see it and your ears did not hear it, your life has already been touched by it. There was a movement in the unseen, a quiet turning of events that has your name woven into it, and the reason you are here in this moment is not random. You were drawn, gently but intentionally, to hear this now. Stay with me, because this is not about fear, and it is not about pressure. This is about clarity. It is about understanding something that has already begun so you can walk into what is next with awareness instead of confusion. Too often, you have felt like things were happening around you without explanation, like doors were closing without reason, or like delays were stretching longer than they should. But what if those moments were not absence, but protection? Last night, something was rearranged on your behalf. A path that could have led you deeper into stress, into loss, or into a situation that would have drained your peace was quietly interrupted. You did not see the interruption, but you are living in its outcome. And right now, you stand between two ways of interpreting your life. One path tells you nothing is changing, that you are stuck in the same cycle, that what you hoped for is still out of reach. The other path, the one opening before you now, reveals that something has already begun shifting, and you are being invited to recognize it. This is why this moment matters. Not because something bad will happen if you ignore it, but because something good is already unfolding, and awareness is what allows you to step into it fully. When you understand what has started, you stop fighting the process. You stop misreading delays as rejection. You begin to move with purpose instead of hesitation. There is a truth connected to what happened, and it will be revealed to you as you continue. There is also a sign, something tangible and unmistakable in your daily life, that will confirm this shift to you. It will not be confusing or overwhelming. It will meet you in a way that feels clear, even gentle, yet undeniable. And beyond that sign, there is a turning point, a moment where you will realize that what once felt heavy is no longer holding the same weight over you. But before you reach that understanding, I want you to pause with me for just a few seconds. Take a slow breath in, and then release it. Notice where you are right now. Notice the quiet space around you, or even the noise, and how you are still here, still present, still moving forward. There is a steadiness within you that has carried you through more than you give yourself credit for. That steadiness is not accidental. It is part of what has been protecting you even when you felt uncertain. And as you listen now, you may feel a subtle sense of calm, or a gentle pull to keep going, to not turn away from this moment. That is not pressure. That is alignment. That is you recognizing, even if only slightly, that this message is meeting you at the right time. You have not missed your moment. You are not behind. In fact, what happened last night is evidence that things can change without warning, that what feels stuck can begin to move when you least expect it. And now, as you stay with this, you are beginning to see the first layer of what has been hidden. And in the next moments, you are going to understand more clearly what actually took place, and why it had to happen the way it did. Last night, while you were resting or simply moving through your routine, something decisive unfolded beyond what your eyes could measure. It was not loud. It did not announce itself with noise or spectacle. It was quiet, precise, and intentional. An unseen hand moved across the details of your life, adjusting what you could not have adjusted on your own. There are moments when life shifts slowly, almost unnoticed, and then there are moments like this, where a single unseen change begins to alter the direction of everything that follows. This was one of those moments. You may wake up today feeling like everything is the same, yet something underneath has already been realigned. If nothing had intervened, you would have continued down a path that looked familiar but carried a hidden weight. A conversation might have unfolded in a way that pulled you into deeper stress. A decision might have seemed harmless but would have led to regret. A connection you trusted could have drawn more from you than it ever intended to give back. It is not about fear. It is about awareness of how close certain outcomes were, and how quietly they were redirected. Instead of that path continuing, something shifted. A door that seemed like it might open fully was gently closed. Not slammed, not taken from you in a way that would break you, but closed with a purpose you could not yet see. At the same time, another path, one you may not have been paying attention to, was cleared. It did not appear dramatic. It may have felt like a delay, a pause, or even a small disappointment. But in truth, it was a redirection. Think about the moments recently where something did not go as expected. Plans that stalled, responses that never came, opportunities that felt like they slipped just out of reach. It is easy to interpret those as losses. But what if those were the very places where protection stepped in? What if what you thought was being withheld was actually something being held back for your sake? Last night was not about taking from you. It was about preserving something within you that could have been worn down if the wrong door had stayed open. There are doors that look inviting but lead into spaces that slowly drain your peace, your confidence, your sense of direction. And there are doors that seem closed too early, only because you cannot yet see the path they are protecting you from. Something shifted last night, and even though your eyes did not see it and your ears did not hear it, your life has already been touched by it. There was a movement in the unseen, a quiet turning of events that has your name woven into it, and the reason you are here in this moment is not random. You were drawn, gently but intentionally, to hear this now. Stay with me, because this is not about fear, and it is not about pressure. This is about clarity. It is about understanding something that has already begun so you can walk into what is next with awareness instead of confusion. Too often, you have felt like things were happening around you without explanation, like doors were closing without reason, or like delays were stretching longer than they should. But what if those moments were not absence, but protection? Last night, something was rearranged on your behalf. A path that could have led you deeper into stress, into loss, or into a situation that would have drained your peace was quietly interrupted. You did not see the interruption, but you are living in its outcome. And right now, you stand between two ways of interpreting your life. One path tells you nothing is changing, that you are stuck in the same cycle, that what you hoped for is still out of reach. The other path, the one opening before you now, reveals that something has already begun shifting, and you are being invited to recognize it. This is why this moment matters. Not because something bad will happen if you ignore it, but because something good is already unfolding, and awareness is what allows you to step into it fully. When you understand what has started, you stop fighting the process. You stop misreading delays as rejection. You begin to move with purpose instead of hesitation. There is a truth connected to what happened, and it will be revealed to you as you continue. There is also a sign, something tangible and unmistakable in your daily life, that will confirm this shift to you. It will not be confusing or overwhelming. It will meet you in a way that feels clear, even gentle, yet undeniable. And beyond that sign, there is a turning point, a moment where you will realize that what once felt heavy is no longer holding the same weight over you. But before you reach that understanding, I want you to pause with me for just a few seconds. Take a slow breath in, and then release it. Notice where you are right now. Notice the quiet space around you, or even the noise, and how you are still here, still present, still moving forward. There is a steadiness within you that has carried you through more than you give yourself credit for. That steadiness is not accidental. It is part of what has been protecting you even when you felt uncertain. And as you listen now, you may feel a subtle sense of calm, or a gentle pull to keep going, to not turn away from this moment. That is not pressure. That is alignment. That is you recognizing, even if only slightly, that this message is meeting you at the right time. You have not missed your moment. You are not behind. In fact, what happened last night is evidence that things can change without warning, that what feels stuck can begin to move when you least expect it. And now, as you stay with this, you are beginning to see the first layer of what has been hidden. And in the next moments, you are going to understand more clearly what actually took place, and why it had to happen the way it did. Last night, while you were resting or simply moving through your routine, something decisive unfolded beyond what your eyes could measure. It was not loud. It did not announce itself with noise or spectacle. It was quiet, precise, and intentional. An unseen hand moved across the details of your life, adjusting what you could not have adjusted on your own. There are moments when life shifts slowly, almost unnoticed, and then there are moments like this, where a single unseen change begins to alter the direction of everything that follows. This was one of those moments. You may wake up today feeling like everything is the same, yet something underneath has already been realigned. If nothing had intervened, you would have continued down a path that looked familiar but carried a hidden weight. A conversation might have unfolded in a way that pulled you into deeper stress. A decision might have seemed harmless but would have led to regret. A connection you trusted could have drawn more from you than it ever intended to give back. It is not about fear. It is about awareness of how close certain outcomes were, and how quietly they were redirected. Instead of that path continuing, something shifted. A door that seemed like it might open fully was gently closed. Not slammed, not taken from you in a way that would break you, but closed with a purpose you could not yet see. At the same time, another path, one you may not have been paying attention to, was cleared. It did not appear dramatic. It may have felt like a delay, a pause, or even a small disappointment. But in truth, it was a redirection. Think about the moments recently where something did not go as expected. Plans that stalled, responses that never came, opportunities that felt like they slipped just out of reach. It is easy to interpret those as losses. But what if those were the very places where protection stepped in? What if what you thought was being withheld was actually something being held back for your sake? Last night was not about taking from you. It was about preserving something within you that could have been worn down if the wrong door had stayed open. There are doors that look inviting but lead into spaces that slowly drain your peace, your confidence, your sense of direction. And there are doors that seem closed too early, only because you cannot yet see the path they are protecting you from. This is the contrast you are standing in now. On one side, there was a continuation of what has been exhausting you, repeating patterns that would keep you in the same cycle. On the other side, there is a quieter, steadier path that may not feel as immediate, but carries far more peace and clarity. The intervention that happened last night shifted you away from the first and began aligning you with the second. And there is something else you need to understand. Not every closed door is simply a missed opportunity. Sometimes it is a boundary being placed for you when you were too tired or too hopeful to place it yourself. Sometimes it is a removal. Not always obvious, not always dramatic, but real. A conversation that didn't happen. A message that was delayed. A connection that suddenly grew distant. These are not always accidents. There are influences, environments, and even people that can carry energy that does not support where you are being led. This does not mean you need to look at others with suspicion. It means you begin to recognize patterns. You begin to notice what leaves you drained versus what strengthens you. And last night, something that was not aligned with your well-being was quietly held back from advancing further into your life. You may not know exactly what it was yet. That clarity is still unfolding. But you can begin to sense the result. There is a subtle difference in the way things are positioned now. A pause where there might have been pressure. A silence where there could have been confusion. A space that feels uncertain, yet somehow lighter than what came before. This is how protection often works. It does not always announce what it has done. It simply changes what happens next. And as you stay with this, you will begin to see more clearly why certain things had to be interrupted, why certain doors could not remain open, and why you were not meant to continue in the direction you thought you wanted. If this mattered so much, you might wonder why you did not know sooner. Why wasn't there a clear sign the moment it happened? Why did you wake up still carrying questions, still feeling the weight of uncertainty? These are honest questions, and they deserve a clear answer, not silence. There is a difference between something happening for you and something being revealed to you. Not everything that protects you announces itself in the same moment it occurs. Sometimes understanding arrives in layers, not all at once, because if everything were shown immediately, it would overwhelm rather than guide you. You would try to control what you are meant to trust, and in doing so, you would step out of alignment with what is being carefully arranged. Think about how many times you have wanted clarity right away. You wanted to know why something ended, why someone pulled away, why an opportunity disappeared just as it seemed within reach. In those moments, the silence felt like rejection. The delay felt like being overlooked. It may have even felt like you were being left behind while others moved forward. But what you could not see then is what you are beginning to understand now. Immediate answers are not always helpful answers. Sometimes, the truth has to wait until your perspective is steady enough to receive it without distortion. If you had known everything last night, you might have reacted out of fear or frustration. You might have tried to reopen a door that needed to stay closed. You might have held on to something that was already being removed for your sake. This is where the meaning of delay begins to change. What feels like being held back is often you being held in place until the path ahead is safe enough to walk. It is not rejection. It is not neglect. It is timing. And timing is not random. It is precise in ways that only become clear when you look back, not when you are standing in the middle of it. You are not the only one who has felt this tension. That sense of watching things pause in your life while you try to understand what you are doing wrong. That quiet question in your mind asking, why is this not moving, or why does this keep happening to me? These feelings are real, and they deserve to be acknowledged. You are not imagining the delay. You are experiencing it. But the meaning of that delay is where everything begins to shift. Instead of seeing it as something working against you, consider that it may be something working around you. Protecting what needs to be preserved, removing what cannot stay, and preparing you for what is next without rushing you into it unprepared. There is a care in that process, even if it does not always feel gentle while you are inside it. Take a moment now, and reflect honestly. Where in your life have you felt blocked recently? Not just once, but repeatedly. Where have you tried to move forward, only to feel resistance, silence, or an unexpected pause? It could be in your work, where progress seems slower than it should be. It could be in a relationship, where communication has shifted or become unclear. It could even be within yourself, where motivation and clarity have not aligned the way you hoped. Do not rush past this reflection. Let it settle for a moment. Because the place where you have felt the most blocked is often the place where the most protection has been applied. Not to stop you permanently, but to stop something else from reaching you before you are ready to handle it or before it can cause harm. This is the difference between a closed door that limits you and a closed door that shields you. From the outside, they can look exactly the same. Both prevent you from moving forward in that direction. Both create a sense of interruption. But one leads to frustration, and the other leads to preservation. The challenge is that you often cannot tell which one it is in the moment. That is why understanding comes after, not before. It allows you to see the pattern clearly instead of reacting to each moment in isolation. It helps you recognize that what felt like a series of random delays is actually a consistent form of guidance. And now, as you begin to see this more clearly, you are being prepared to understand something deeper about what has been happening around you, and what has been quietly working against your progress until now. There is something you need to understand clearly now, not to create fear, but to bring clarity to what has felt confusing for so long. Not every struggle you have faced came only from what you could see. Some of it formed quietly beneath the surface, through patterns, pressures, and influences that were never meant to strengthen you. This does not mean you were surrounded by constant danger or that everything around you was against you. It means that at certain points in your life, there were forces that did not align with your peace, your growth, or your direction. And instead of arriving in obvious ways, they showed up subtly, through repeated delays, draining connections, or situations that seemed to take more from you than they ever gave back. You may have noticed this without fully understanding it. Times when you gave your energy, your attention, your effort, yet the outcome felt empty. Conversations that left you feeling heavier instead of supported. Opportunities that looked promising at first but slowly revealed themselves as exhausting or unbalanced. These were not random experiences. They were part of a pattern that was shaping your path in ways you could not yet see. At the same time, there was another layer to this battle that did not come from outside, but from within. The quiet voice of doubt that began to question your worth. The hesitation that made you second-guess your decisions. The feeling that maybe you were asking for too much, or expecting too much, or believing too much. This internal weight can be just as powerful as anything external, because it changes how you respond to what is in front of you. When these two forces meet, external pressure and internal doubt, they create a cycle that is difficult to break. You encounter resistance, and instead of seeing it as a sign to pause or redirect, you begin to believe it is a reflection of your limitations. You start to lower your expectations. You begin to accept less than what truly aligns with you, simply because it feels easier than continuing to push against what is not working. This is how the hidden battle operates. Not through one dramatic moment, but through repetition. Small moments that slowly shape your thinking, your choices, and your direction. Over time, it can make you feel like you are moving, but not really progressing. Like you are trying, but not arriving. Like something is always just slightly out of reach. But here is where the clarity begins to shift everything. The resistance you faced was not proof that you were incapable. It was often a signal that something was misaligned. That the path you were on, or the situation you were in, was not designed to carry you forward in the way you hoped. And instead of forcing your way through it, something deeper was already working to move you away from it. This is why certain things felt harder than they should have. Not because you lacked strength, but because you were trying to hold on to something that was not meant to support you long term. And at the same time, you were being gently, sometimes quietly, redirected towards something that would. It is important to say this clearly. You are not being asked to look at your life with suspicion or to assume the worst about people or situations. This is not about creating distance from everything around you. It is about recognizing patterns. Noticing what consistently drains you, what leaves you uncertain, what causes you to shrink instead of grow. And equally, noticing what brings you a sense of steadiness. What gives you clarity instead of confusion. What allows you to move forward without constant resistance. These contrasts are not accidents. They are indicators. They help you discern where your energy is being used in ways that align with you, and where it is being pulled into something that cannot sustain you. For a long time, this battle remained hidden because it was not obvious. It blended into your daily life. It felt like normal struggle, normal delay, normal uncertainty. But now, you are beginning to see that there was more happening beneath the surface than you realized. And here is the part that changes everything. That pattern has already begun to break. The intervention that took place did not only stop a single moment or a single situation. It interrupted a cycle. It created space where there used to be pressure. It removed or limited something that was quietly working against your progress, even if you cannot yet name it clearly. You may start to notice this in small ways at first. A situation that would normally create stress feels different. A reaction you would usually have no longer feels as strong. A connection that once felt intense begins to lose its hold on you. These are not coincidences. They are signs that the weight of that hidden battle is beginning to lift. This does not mean everything will change instantly. There is still a process of realignment, of understanding, of choosing differently as you become more aware. But the most difficult part, the part where you were facing resistance without understanding it, is already shifting. And as this shift continues, you are being moved into a place where you can finally see what has been prepared for you beyond that struggle, something that will confirm, in a very real and tangible way, that this change is not just internal, but unfolding around you as well. There is a story I want to share with you, because sometimes it becomes easier to recognize truth when you can see it reflected in someone else's journey. This is about someone who stood exactly where you have been standing, in that place between effort and uncertainty, between hope and quiet exhaustion. For a long time, this person had been trying to move forward. They were consistent. They showed up. They did what they believed was right. But no matter how much effort they gave, things kept stalling. Opportunities would begin, then fade. Conversations would start, then lose direction. Doors seemed close enough to touch, yet never fully opened. Over time, it began to wear on them. They started to question themselves. Maybe they were missing something. Maybe they were not ready. Maybe they were simply not meant for what they were hoping for. And the hardest part was not the struggle itself, but the silence around it. There was no clear answer, no explanation, just a repeating cycle of almost, almost, almost. Then one night, nothing outwardly dramatic happened. There was no sudden announcement, no visible sign, no moment they could point to and say, "This is when everything changed." They went to sleep carrying the same questions they had been holding for weeks, maybe even months. But something shifted anyway. While they rested, a situation that had been quietly building behind the scenes reached a turning point. A conversation they were not part of took a different direction. A decision was made that removed them from something that would not have served them. At the same time, another opportunity, one they had not been focusing on, began to open in a subtle but real way. They woke up the next day feeling almost the same. Nothing looked dramatically different. But there was a slight change they could not fully explain. The pressure they had been carrying felt lighter. The urgency they had been feeling began to settle. It was not gone, but it was different. Within a few days, the first visible sign appeared. Something they had been waiting for did not come through, but instead of feeling like another loss, it felt like clarity. For the first time, they did not feel pulled to chase it. They let it go without the usual struggle. Then, unexpectedly, something else began to move. A message came from a direction they had not been pursuing. A conversation unfolded with ease instead of tension. An opportunity presented itself that did not require them to prove or force anything. It simply aligned. At first, they were cautious. After so many delays, it was hard to trust that this was different. But as days passed, the pattern became clear. What had once felt heavy and uncertain was being replaced by something steadier, something that did not demand constant effort just to stay in place. Looking back, they realized that the shift did not begin the moment the new opportunity appeared. It began the night before, when something unseen had already rearranged the direction of their path. What felt like delay was actually preparation. What felt like loss was actually removal. And the most surprising part was this. The things that did not work out, the doors that never fully opened, were not failures. They were protections. They were moments where they were being kept from stepping into something that would have taken more from them than it gave. Now bring this back to you. You may not have your full answer yet. You may still be in that space where things feel quiet, where nothing seems dramatically different on the surface. But that does not mean nothing has changed. Just like in that story, the shift often begins before you can see it. You might notice it first as a feeling. A little less pressure. A little more clarity. A subtle sense that you do not need to chase what once felt urgent. These are not small things. They are the beginning of alignment. And just as it happened for them, you are moving toward a moment where what is meant for you will not require the same kind of struggle. It will meet you differently. It will feel different. Stay with this, because what comes next will help you recognize the exact signs that confirm this shift is already unfolding in your life. Now listen closely, because this is where the clarity you have been waiting for begins to take shape in a way you can actually recognize. The shift we have been talking about does not remain hidden forever. It leaves evidence. It shows itself in simple, grounded ways that meet you right where you are, not in confusion, but in clarity. The first sign is a kind of peace that does not match your circumstances. This is not the absence of problems. It is the presence of steadiness in the middle of them. You may still have unanswered questions, things that have not fully resolved, yet something inside you feels calmer than it should. The urgency begins to soften. The need to control every outcome starts to loosen. You find yourself breathing a little deeper without forcing it. This peace will not arrive loudly. It will feel subtle at first, almost like a quiet thought that says, "You are going to be okay," even when nothing around you has visibly changed. And the key here is to notice it without dismissing it. Do not rush to replace it with worry. When that calm appears, pause for a moment. Let it settle. That is your first confirmation that something has shifted in your favor. The second sign is unexpected contact or movement from a direction you were not actively pursuing. This could be a message, a call, an opportunity, or even a conversation that begins naturally without you forcing it. It will stand out because it feels different from what you have been experiencing. Instead of resistance, there is flow. Instead of confusion, there is clarity. This does not mean every message you receive is significant. The difference is in how it feels and how it unfolds. It will not drain you. It will not leave you second-guessing your worth or your place in it. Instead, it will feel balanced, like something is meeting you halfway. When this happens, your role is not to rush or overanalyze. Respond simply. Stay present in the moment. Let it develop without trying to control the outcome too quickly. The third sign is repetition. You will begin to notice the same idea, word, number, or message appearing in different places in a short span of time. It might come through a conversation, something you read, something you hear unexpectedly, or even a thought that keeps returning with a sense of clarity rather than anxiety. This repetition is not meant to confuse you. It is meant to confirm direction. When something aligns with you, it will often repeat until you recognize it. The important thing is to pay attention to what is being repeated and how it connects to what you have been feeling internally. Does it bring clarity? Does it point you toward a decision you have been avoiding? Does it encourage you to move forward in a way that feels steady rather than forced? These signs are not distant or symbolic in a way that is hard to understand. They are practical. They show up in your daily life. And they begin to appear within a specific window of time. For most people, this shift becomes noticeable within the next few days to a few weeks. Not all at once, not in a dramatic burst, but in a sequence. First the internal shift, then the external confirmation. You may notice the peace before anything else changes. Then, as you settle into that steadiness, the external movement begins. A conversation opens. A path becomes clearer. Something that once felt blocked begins to move without the same resistance. This is how you will know you are not imagining it. Now here is the most important part. When these signs appear, your response matters. Not in a way that creates pressure, but in a way that allows the shift to continue unfolding. When you feel that unexpected peace, do not override it with old patterns of worry. When something new begins to move toward you, do not immediately compare it to past disappointments. And when repetition appears, do not ignore it as coincidence without first considering what it might be pointing you toward. Instead, stay aware. Stay present. Let each sign guide your next small step rather than trying to map out the entire path at once. You are not being asked to have everything figured out. You are being asked to recognize what is already being shown to you. There is a difference between forcing progress and following alignment. Forcing comes from fear, from the need to make something happen quickly. Alignment comes from recognizing what is naturally opening and moving with it at the right pace. The signs you are receiving are not asking you to push harder. They are inviting you to move differently. And as you begin to respond in this way, you will start to see that this shift is not temporary. It is the beginning of a new direction, one that carries a different kind of energy, one that supports you instead of draining you. In the next moments, you are going to understand what this change actually begins to affect in your life, and how this new direction will start to show itself in ways that are both practical and lasting. Something has already begun, and what changes next will not feel like a sudden explosion of results, but a steady, undeniable movement that replaces what once felt stuck. This is where the contrast becomes clear. You are moving out of a phase where everything felt delayed, where effort did not match outcome, where you kept trying but nothing seemed to fully respond. And now, you are entering a phase where things begin to move, not all at once, but in ways that are consistent and real. Before, you may have felt like you were pushing against something invisible. You would take a step forward, only to feel pulled back. You would try to build momentum, only to watch it slow down without explanation. That was the old pattern. It created doubt. It made you question whether anything would truly change. It made you feel like you were always just slightly behind where you needed to be. But this new phase does not carry that same resistance. It may begin quietly, but it carries a different kind of energy. Instead of pushing hard just to make something happen, you will begin to notice that certain things respond more easily. Conversations will not feel as strained. Decisions will not feel as confusing. Opportunities will not require you to force your way into them. This shift may first show itself in your mindset. The thoughts that once circled around worry and uncertainty will begin to loosen. You may catch yourself thinking more clearly, making decisions without overanalyzing every detail. The heaviness that once followed you through the day starts to lift, even if your circumstances have not fully changed yet. This is important, because everything external begins with what stabilizes internally. Then, you may begin to see changes in your relationships. Not necessarily dramatic changes, but clear ones. Some connections may feel easier, more balanced, less demanding of your energy. Others may begin to fade or shift naturally, without conflict or struggle. You will start to recognize who aligns with where you are going and who was only part of a phase you are now moving beyond. In your finances or work, the change may come as new movement where there was once stagnation. This does not mean everything will suddenly become perfect or effortless. It means that where there was once silence, there is now response. Where there was once confusion, there is now direction. You may notice a new idea forming, a new opportunity appearing, or a solution presenting itself in a way that feels clear instead of forced. It is important to understand this clearly. This is not about instant transformation. It is about real progress. The kind of progress that builds over time and creates stability instead of temporary excitement. You are not being rushed into something overwhelming. You are being led into something sustainable. There will still be moments where you pause, where you reflect, where you take time to understand your next step. But those pauses will feel different from the delays you experienced before. They will not feel like you are stuck. They will feel like you are choosing your direction with clarity. And this is where you need to release one of the heaviest thoughts you may have been carrying. The idea that you are behind. That somehow you missed your moment, or that others have moved ahead while you remained in the same place. That is not your reality anymore. What you went through was not wasted time. It was preparation, even when it felt like waiting. You are not starting from zero. You are starting from experience, from awareness, from a deeper understanding of what does and does not align with you. And that changes how you move forward. It makes your next steps more intentional, more grounded, more effective. As this shift continues, you will begin to trust the movement again. You will begin to recognize that things can unfold without constant struggle. That not every step has to feel heavy. That progress can feel steady instead of uncertain. And as you step into this new phase, there is something important that will determine how fully you align with it. It is not about doing everything perfectly. It is about how you respond to what is now being placed in front of you, and how you choose to move with it instead of against it. Now that you understand what has shifted and what is beginning to unfold, there is something important you need to recognize. This next part is not about striving harder or proving yourself. It is about how you respond to what is already moving in your favor. Because even when the path is being cleared, your alignment determines how smoothly you walk it. There are 3 simple ways to align yourself with this shift, and they are not complicated. In fact, their power comes from how grounded and consistent they are. The first is stillness. Not long, overwhelming moments where you feel like you have to do everything perfectly, but short, intentional pauses in your day. Just a few minutes where you step out of the noise, away from constant thinking, and allow yourself to become present again. You can close your eyes, take a slow breath, and simply acknowledge where you are. In those moments, you do not need to search for answers. You do not need to force clarity. You only need to create space for it. You might say a simple prayer, something honest and direct, asking for guidance, for peace, for understanding. It does not have to sound perfect. What matters is that it is real. Stillness is where you begin to notice the difference between anxiety and intuition. Anxiety rushes, it pressures, it demands immediate action. Intuition is steady. It does not shout. It becomes clearer when you slow down enough to hear it. When you give yourself these small moments daily, you begin to strengthen your ability to recognize what is aligned and what is not. The second step is awareness. You are no longer in the same place you were before. But if you move forward without awareness, it becomes easy to repeat the same patterns that once kept you stuck. This is not about being overly cautious or questioning everything. It is about noticing. Notice how you feel in different situations. Notice what drains your energy and what restores it. Notice where you feel clarity and where you feel confusion. These are not random reactions. They are signals. In the past, you may have ignored these signals because you wanted something to work so badly. You may have stayed in situations longer than you should have, hoping they would change. You may have pushed forward even when something inside you felt uncertain. That is what you are leaving behind. Now, awareness allows you to pause before repeating what no longer serves you. It allows you to choose differently. If something feels consistently heavy, you do not need to force yourself deeper into it. If something feels clear and steady, you can move toward it with confidence, even if it is new or unfamiliar. Awareness is not about fear. It is about clarity. It helps you stay aligned with the direction that is opening for you instead of slipping back into what has already been closed. The third step is intentional action. This is where everything begins to come together. You are not being asked to take huge leaps or to have everything figured out at once. You are being asked to take small, meaningful steps in the direction that now feels clear. When an opportunity appears, respond to it without overthinking it into doubt. When you feel guided to move in a certain direction, take the next step that is available to you. It does not have to be perfect. It only needs to be honest and aligned with what you are sensing. Progress is not built on one big moment. It is built on consistent, intentional choices. Each small step reinforces the shift that has already begun. Each action taken with clarity moves you further away from the old cycle and deeper into the new one. And as you do this, you begin to trust yourself again. You begin to see that you can move forward without forcing everything, without carrying the same weight you once did. You begin to experience what it feels like to be in alignment rather than resistance. Take a moment right now, and let this settle. You do not need to rush. You do not need to prove anything. Just allow yourself to acknowledge that you are ready to move differently. If this resonates with you, you can quietly affirm it, even in your own mind or in a simple comment, "I receive clarity." Not as a performance, but as a decision. A decision to be aware, to stay present, and to move forward with intention. Because what is unfolding now is not just about what has been done for you. It is about how you step into it. And as you begin to apply these steps, you are preparing yourself for a deeper moment of connection, one where everything you have understood so far becomes something you can feel, not just think about. Right now, I want you to slow down with me. Not because you are behind, not because you need to catch up, but because this is the moment where everything you have been hearing becomes something you can feel within you. Take a gentle breath in, slowly, without rushing it. Let it fill your chest, and then release it just as slowly. Do that again. As you breathe, allow your shoulders to soften. Let your body settle where you are. There is no pressure here. There is no expectation. Just presence. Now, in this quiet space, I want you to turn your attention inward. Not to your worries, not to the things that feel unresolved, but to that place within you that has remained steady even through uncertainty. It may feel small, but it is there. Let us begin this prayer together. God, in this moment, I come to you as I am. Not with perfect words, not with complete understanding, but with an open heart. You see everything that has been happening, even the things I could not see. You know the paths I have walked, the moments I have questioned, and the weight I have been carrying. I ask now for clarity. Not all at once, not in a way that overwhelms me, but in a way that guides me step by step. Help me to recognize what is being shown to me. Help me to understand the shifts that are already taking place in my life. Let confusion begin to fade, and let clarity take its place. Take another slow breath here. As you inhale, imagine a soft light filling your chest, not harsh or blinding, but calm and steady. As you exhale, imagine the heaviness you have been carrying gently leaving your body. You do not have to force it. Just allow it. God, I ask for protection over my path. Over my thoughts, my decisions, and the direction I am being led. If there is anything that is not aligned with my well-being, anything that would take from me more than it gives, I trust that it is being held back or removed. Give me the awareness to recognize what is not meant for me, and the strength to let it go without fear. Breathe in again, slowly. And as you do, notice if there is any tension left in your body. If there is, do not fight it. Just acknowledge it, and as you breathe out, allow it to soften. God, I ask for courage. Not the kind that pushes me to force things to happen, but the kind that allows me to move forward with trust. Courage to take the next step when it becomes clear. Courage to wait when patience is needed. Courage to believe that I am not being left behind, but guided in a way that is right for me. Now sit with this for a moment. No words, no effort, just silence. Let this space exist without needing to fill it. Let your thoughts settle naturally. If something comes to your mind, observe it without holding on to it. If nothing comes, that is perfectly okay. This is where connection deepens, not through effort, but through presence. You are not speaking into emptiness. You are not alone in this moment. There is a quiet connection here, one that does not need to be proven or explained. It is felt. As you come out of this stillness, bring your awareness back gently. Notice your breath again. Notice the space around you. Notice how you feel, even if the change is subtle. You may not have all the answers yet, and that is okay. What you have now is something just as important. A sense of steadiness. A sense of connection. A sense that you are being guided, even if you are still learning to recognize how. Hold on to that, not tightly, but with trust. Because what you have just felt is not separate from your daily life. It is something you can return to, again and again, whenever you need clarity, whenever you need peace, whenever you need to realign yourself with what is unfolding. And as you carry this forward, you are ready to receive the final understanding that brings everything together into a clear and steady truth. What you have just walked through is not just a message, it is a shift in understanding. You began in a place where things felt unclear, where delays did not make sense, where silence felt heavy and direction felt uncertain. And now, you stand in a different awareness. Not because everything has instantly changed around you, but because something has become clear within you. You can now see that what felt like confusion was not the absence of guidance. It was guidance unfolding in a way you could not yet interpret. What felt like delay was not rejection. It was protection. What felt like being stuck was actually a moment of being held in place until the path ahead could open in a way that supports you. This is the journey you have just taken. From questioning to understanding. From tension to steadiness. From feeling like you were waiting without purpose to realizing that something has been working for you the entire time. And now, as you move forward from this moment, there is a gentle awareness I want you to carry with you. The next few days, the next few moments, are not something to rush through. They are something to notice. Because the signs you have been prepared for will begin to show themselves in simple, real ways. Not all at once. Not in a way that overwhelms you. But in a sequence that confirms what you now understand. A sense of peace that feels steady. A moment of clarity that feels natural. A shift in direction that feels aligned rather than forced. Stay aware of these things. Not with pressure, not with the need to analyze every detail, but with a quiet attentiveness. The kind that allows you to recognize what is unfolding without trying to control it. Because the more present you are, the more clearly you will see that you are no longer in the same place you were before. You are not walking in circles anymore. You are moving forward, even if the steps feel small at first. And as you continue, remember this. You are not doing this alone. The same presence that guided what happened before you could see it is still with you now. There is no condition attached to that. No requirement for perfection. No moment where you will suddenly be left without support. Even when you feel uncertain again, even when you pause or question your next step, that guidance does not disappear. It remains steady, patient, and present, waiting for you to recognize it again. So let yourself move forward with trust. Not blind trust, but the kind that comes from understanding. You have seen enough now to know that there is more happening for you than you once believed. If you feel called to stay connected to this kind of clarity, to continue receiving guidance like this, you can choose to remain here, to return to this space when you need to be reminded. Not out of fear, but out of alignment. Out of the desire to stay grounded in what brings you peace and direction. And as you carry this forward, hold on to this final truth. You were never off your path. You were being redirected. You were never forgotten. You were being protected. And now, you are exactly where you need to be, moving forward in a way that is steady, supported, and real.